Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. So yesterday we talked a little bit about the UnitedHealthcare CEO alleged shooter, and he is of course in custody of police. But a video just dropped of this guy. His name is Luigi Mangione. And he was like yelling at the press as he's being escorted by police into, I believe it was the courthouse, but here's that.
Down.
So he's getting out of the sheriff's vehicle.
Completely out of touch and the insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Now, it's interesting because police had previously said that he was totally silent, did not answer any of their questions. And in a preliminary hearing, he only said like one thing they said, which indicated something to the effect that he was being framed. And there you hear him say it is completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people. They're like trying to hush him up really quick, which I'm sure is standard. But it just makes you wonder, with all of the more details coming out about this story, is there more to it than meets the eye? It feels inherently, you're like, this all seems really weird, really strange tidbits just being dropped. And so Chase Geiser over with InfoWars dropped a pretty interesting post on X this morning that may tie Nancy and Paul Pelosi, of all people, to Luigi Mangione and even the actual murder of the UHC CEO Brian Thompson. And for me, the veracity of all of this relies on this one particular piece. But so I want to go through all of this. All right. I still have questions. There is a claim that has DOJ testimony that Thompson was scheduled to deliver right before his death that I really have some questions on. But I want to break down kind of what he said. Okay. So Nancy Pelosi's brother, Thomas Alessandro III. They all have very fancy names, okay? Thomas D'Alessandro. Is that how I say it? I don't know. Stephen, do you know?
Sarah, what do you think?
D'Alessandro III and Luigi's grandfather, Nicholas Mangione, had a pretty friendly relationship as members of Baltimore's elite, all right? So Thomas Alessandro was the president of Baltimore City Council from 1962 to 1967. 1967 and 1971, he was the 44th mayor of Baltimore. And Nicholas Mangione was a prolific real estate developer in Baltimore and part of Baltimore's intellectual elite with close ties to Loyola University, Maryland. And Nicholas Mangione had to work with the local governments to get all of his projects done that he was doing. And in an article, this is Everything by the Book in the Evening Sun. This is a local paper. Mangione said that despite troubles he faces with regulations, his philosophy in real estate development was, I want to do everything by the book. And so it was like 30 years he developed projects in Baltimore, and the time period overlaps with Thomas D'Alessandro's time in the city government. So D'Alessandro was very public with his admiration for this guy, the granddad, Nicholas Mangione. There was a Washington Post article from 1989 that was called Controversy Courts Turf Valley Owner. And D'Alessandro said, those who criticize Mangione don't understand what drives him. If he seems impatient sometimes, it's only because he wants the very best for his business and the very best for his family. Now, there's more evidence of this, maybe not close, but at least warm relationship in a 1995 Baltimore Sun profile piece on Mangione called Fiery Builder Has Softer Side, where D'Alessandro again is commenting on this guy. Nothing but nice things to say. He said he's a tough, hard-nosed businessman, but he has a heart of gold. He has a great compassion for people who are in need. So there is a pretty well-established tie between these two powerful families, with Nicholas Mangione, of course, as I said, Luigi's grandfather, and Thomas D'Alessandro III, Nancy Pelosi's brother. That in and of itself, very strange, right? Very, very, very coincidental, I would say. So let's then factor in the Pelosi connection to Brian Thompson, of course, the recently murdered CEO of UnitedHealthcare. So here's an interesting timeline for you. You guys have all looked, I'm sure, especially if you watch the show, you've seen the graphs, the charts that show all of these people who enter Congress at $175,000 a year and they are not worth anything. And all of a sudden they're in Congress for 80 million years and they're multimillionaires and billionaires. Well, at the top of all of those lists is always Nancy Pelosi. And so February 12th of 2024, Paul Pelosi, Nancy's husband, purchased 20 call options valued around $250,000 in Palo Alto Networks. This is a leading cybersecurity firm. Okay. So random purchase of Palo Alto Networks. February 21st, 2024, a ransomware group called Black Cat carried out a huge data breach of UnitedHealth Group that it ended up leaking information on like 100 million people. Total disaster. Okay. Now, Black Cat doesn't have any confirmed ties to Luigi, but I will just say, for the sake of just adding it to the conversation, Luigi did hold an Ivy League graduate degree in computer science and was very, very fascinated in that world. All right. So now let's go to February 21st of 2024. Paul Pelosi happened to purchase another 50 call options totaling $1 million for Palo Alto Networks. And shortly after this breach, that was the firm that was selected to investigate it. So I'm just saying, for the Pelosis to have made this much money off of it, for him to know to buy it up and then buy it like the same day that it was announced, right before that it was announced that this was going to be the firm that was selected to investigate it, you got to believe they had some sort of inside knowledge, as they so often do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the money that they had made. But that's not all. There are more financial connections linking these people, okay? Steve Elmendorf is a UnitedHealth Group lobbyist who fundraised for Nancy Pelosi, and UHC was actively working to help Nancy Pelosi's agenda. For instance, UnitedHealthcare implemented recession reforms early to accommodate Nancy Pelosi. UnitedHealth Group was a Pelosi campaign donor. Now, you've got to imagine, there it is, $5,000. You've got to imagine that, UnitedHealth Group wouldn't be donating to very high-level politicians without the CEO knowing. You would think their names showing up on the donor list, you would think that goes to the top. So here's where all of this gets a little bit messy. Brian Thompson was scheduled to testify before the DOJ regarding insider trading allegations. Now, the conspiracy says that Brian Thompson supposedly had testimony that would implicate Nancy Pelosi, and that's where this starts to get very, very dark. We looked, and we couldn't substantiate that part. I would love to get Chase Geyser on and see if he has found anything, because I couldn't substantiate that Brian Thompson was going to talk to the DOJ and that he was going to give testimony that would implicate Nancy Pelosi. Now, what we do know is that he was scheduled to give testimony on insider trading. But the problem was that Brian Thompson maybe wasn't that great of a person. I'm just saying, because he sold off $15 million worth of shares while UnitedHealth Group was under a federal antitrust investigation. And along with an additional $105 million shares sold by other UnitedHealth Group executives, that move lost shareholders about $25 billion. So that's what I saw that he was, of course, scheduled to testify about. Now, that part of the tie to Nancy Pelosi, I can't find. Again, I want to try to get Chase on here in the coming days to talk to him about it. So what does that part have to do with Nancy Pelosi? It's not immediately clear to me. But before we get into conclusion here and bring on the panel to get their reaction to all of this, I want to remind you guys, go ahead and hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure you're subscribed. By the way, if you're going to hit the like button, you might as well subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us in the algorithm for the show, which is stacked against us. So to conclude all of this, I just want to keep in mind, like, this guy, Luigi Mangione, he's acting really freaking weird right now. As I said earlier, he's not talking to the police, but then he's adding in random commentary to try to some sort of, to try to insinuate that he is being framed. He says they found him with like $8,000 of American currency and $2,000 of foreign currency. And he was like, that's not mine. He also was found with a note on him saying he did it. So like, that's pretty weird, right? But he's acting really weird, sending cryptic messages like you just saw. And also like this YouTube video that was posted yesterday. This is allegedly made by him on a YouTube account from him. It says, if you see this, I'm already under arrest. And it has, those of you who are listening, it has a little countdown clock for the truth. That's what it says. And then it says soon in the bottom corner, and you just saw it. It just flashed December 11th. And it says, all is scheduled. Be patient. Bye for now. That's weird, guys. Almost like, I don't know. Are we talking about a Patsy situation here? He didn't act alone. What does he know? So the Pelosis have obvious public and insider ties to UnitedHealthcare. All right. That is well documented. Really coincidental ties to Luigi Mangione and his family. Very, very strange. Is it possible that Brian Thompson was facing extreme disciplinary action for his crimes? Maybe he could implicate Pelosi to soften his sentence. I think the insinuation there is that the Pelosi's ordered a hit on him. It's possible, but I want to get Chase on to talk about how they might be more implicated in this DOJ hearing. One fact remains, this is all really freaking weird, and it continues to get weirder by the day. So you bet your ass we're going to keep an eye on it and keep you guys updated on the latest. All right, I want to bring in my panel here and get their thoughts on this situation. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Jace Medical. So Jace Medical is there for those of you who you understand, you recognize the importance of prepping for an emergency. And if that's not you, I highly suggest that you change your mind there, because everyone should be prepared in the event of an emergency. We've got, Joe Biden trying really hard to set off World War III. You've got like China being China. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of instability that we hope that Donald Trump will come in and solve. But the fact of the matter is, you get emergency preparedness supplies hoping that you don't need it. But if you do, it's there. We talk about food all the time. Nobody talks about medicine. Medicine is so important to have. If you're talking about life-saving antibiotics, what would happen if you were in the middle of an emergency event or an emergency for you, for your personal family, and you didn't have a life-saving antibiotic, a life-saving medication, a life-saving EpiPen? That's what Jace can give you. They have their Jace case. It contains 5 essential antibiotics meant for emergency use only that, of course, can really help you if you're in a pinch. But on top of that, you can customize it. You can get that EpiPen. You can get ivermectin. You can get whatever it is that your family needs. Customize it to your family's needs over at jace.com. Enter promo code Sarah for a discount. But I'm telling you guys, if you've got emergency food and not emergency medicine, that's silly. Go get emergency medicine right now. JASE.com. Enter code Sarah at checkout. Welcome to the show. We have Blaze TV contributors, both Matthew Mausden, actor and producer extraordinaire, along with Eric July, of course, founder of Ripaverse Comics. Thank you guys for being here. So I just laid out this pretty wild, I guess you could call it a conspiracy theory. At best, or I should say at the very least, a very strange connection with Luigi Mangione's, I don't know if I'm saying that right, by the way. I don't know how to I'm not good at Italian.
Luigi.
Yeah, like I feel like you have to do the Luigi Mangione with Thomas D'Alessandro. I don't know. But at the very least, very strange connections, very random, coincidental that these families are connected. But regardless, it's a really weird situation, and it just keeps getting weirder. This guy's mom had reported him missing on November 14th because he was avoiding friends and family. They were looking for him. They didn't know what was going on. He went off the grid. But prior to that, everyone said he was a really cool guy, really nice guy. There are some rumblings that he went to, I think it was Mexico, and got the weird drugs that they take. It's like magic mushrooms or something. I don't know what it's called. I don't do any of that stuff. And so it's just this whole circumstance, every single layer of it, every layer that they unpeel just seems to get weirder and weirder. Or is that just me being a silly conspiracy theorist and looking too much into it?
No, well, I mean, I can tell you about those drugs you're talking about, because a friend...
You're on them?
I wish. I've got a pinched nerve in my neck. I'm kind of like this all the time. No, because a friend of mine who's a veteran went and did it, and it actually really, really helped him.
What is it called? I forget what it's called.
No, there's different ones, but it's really, really helpful actually in treating guys with PTSD and with a lot of pain. Actually, it's a controlled. If it's the same thing, it's a very controlled it's actually very expensive as well. It's a controlled process where, you know, they get to reconnect. It apparently rebuilds like neural pathways and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually very, very good for them. And I trust my friend who went and had it done or went and did it. So that's kind of strange. I saw that he has those pins in his back. I also have another friend who has absolute chronic pain. And I can relate to that right now as I'm sitting here with chronic pain in my pinched nerve. But I know that sometimes when you have a real chronic pain like that and no amount of, you know, painkillers can get rid of that it can drive you to distraction. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of weirdness in there. I tend to look at, you know, the most logical answer is the truth. And from where I'm sitting, I know that there's a lot of weirdness there. But if you're looking at someone who's had some kind of a surgery and maybe it hasn't relieved his pain or it's caused a lot of pain, then maybe we don't know this, maybe he was refused either treatment or something, because I don't know. Then he'd go and target the main guy in the whole thing. That's to me a very simplistic view of looking at it. You know, when you see it all the time with people that blame the top guy, even though the top guy has absolutely nothing to do with it, and it's just, you know, a trickle down. Saying that, there are some other weird connections, and he is acting very strangely. Now, he could have gone to Mexico to try and get rid of the pain, and it didn't work, and he's like, all right, I'm done, I've got to lash out or something like that. He didn't seem to be moving too badly when you saw him be taken in from the police car. So I don't know. I guess overall, it's all very weird.
It's all very weird. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's a strange story nonetheless. I'm going to always not necessarily side with the conspiracy theorists, but just understanding that this was not just some random guy getting killed out here in South Dallas. This was the top CEO, and a lot has to go right for someone to know exactly where that person is, what at the time that they are there, and to be able to not only off the guy. When I say get away with it, I mean they had to basically go find this man, or maybe he gave himself up. I don't know, but that in itself is just bizarre. Just out there on the streets, he offs the top CEO of a top insurance company, gets away with it for a little bit, and then gets brought in. So, yes, I believe that there's more than what meets the eye. Now, this whole connection with Nancy Pelosi and all that, look, I don't know. Is it a one hell of a coincidence when you look at the connections between the killer's grandfather and his brother?
Look at the stocks too.
Yeah, no, all that's
so weird
and coincidental, right? Yeah. There is some sort of obvious connection there between them. And this is why I think everybody, especially when you know just how, look, nothing is what sort of meets the eye, and there's always something else to it. And will we ever know about it? Often we don't ever find out about it. But I don't for once believe that there's just this random 26-year-old or however old he was that was just pissed off and wanted to go off a CEO of I just don't. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe it is. I just don't think that it works like that.
Yeah, it's also very strange. I mean, the all of the facts surrounding how they caught him are also really like he's sitting in a McDonald's. He has the gun with him, on him. He has his manifesto in his pocket, but then he doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't, he tries to imply that he's being framed. Well, that's all very strange, contrasting behavior from like what it just none of it makes sense. None of it seems to make sense.
It stinks to high. The story in itself stinks. Right.
It's really
it's just a bizarre story. Now, look, I don't know how deep it goes, but it almost sounds like something out of a TV show or a movie.
It really does.
And is there some sort of connection? Did someone pay him to do it? Or is it just as simple as guy mad at the insurance system when he comes from a family of money, went to an Ivy League school, and definitely understanding how our healthcare system works and how it goes. Nobody's really denying you treatment. This isn't Canada. This isn't other places where they will absolutely say you're going to be put on a list, or in Canada's case, go kill yourself. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You may get a hell of a high bill for sure, but they'll treat whatever it is that you have for the most part in this country. That's just how our insurance, granted, look, you might see a bill and you might be in a hell of a lot of debt, but it won't be because you didn't get treated, right?
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I would just like to also specify, we still don't know. If the idea is that he had UnitedHealthcare coverage and UnitedHealthcare denied covering his surgery or whatever, maybe that's the case. They haven't said that. Maybe that's the case. But what I do know is that they say that in his writings, he was motivated by, he said, he called them parasites, right? Parasitic health insurance companies, corporate greed. He wrote that the United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and that profits of major corporations continue to rise while our life expectancy does not. So anti-capitalist, if you want to call it, whatever. But my point is, you would expect that someone with an Ivy League education would understand that if you want to talk about why the United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, it's not because of the insurance companies who are trying their best to keep costs contained. That's been like, and maybe it's because I have a background in insurance. I used to own an insurance brokerage firm, so I understand how all of this works. But it's like, you have to look at the hospitals. The hospitals are the ones that are charging $5,000 to go get an MRI, right? Like, I mean, there's charging exorbitant amounts of money that the insurance companies are forced to pay. And they are a for-profit company. They're not nonprofits. So they do have to factor in paying, charging enough to get profit. And so it just seems really bizarre to me that he's writing about how the United States has such expensive health care and that's what the issue is. And yet he doesn't understand the difference between health insurance and health care.
Well, most
They're
people,
totally different.
Yes, they are. I'm glad you brought that up. But I mean, that's when I start to get really deep into, he has an Ivy League degree. But when I think about it, I don't respect anybody.
No, I don't.
I
said that yesterday. I said, I'm sure that's where he was radicalized.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly what I was about to say. That's possibly where he got all the
I know.
nonsense, especially economically. I mean, you can go top to bottom. They're all either Keynesians, maybe they're definitely those economics teachers, maybe they're full-blown Marxists for the most part. But they're not going to get to the root of solution. They're not going to talk about the regulatory body that is our United States government and how involved and how heavily subsidized this. They have the same damn problem that they have with the education system, particularly in universities, was how they subsidize it. And then when you're dealing with like hospitals, much like colleges, with money that they know they're going to get, they have zero incentive to lower the prices for what it is that they're going to charge you for. So it is all interconnected. It's not necessarily one entity's fault that this is the case. And yeah, he might be too stupid, despite with having an Ivy League degree, to understand that. But a lot of folks that age don't. And it's not to be fair to him. That's the reality.
Right.
But yes, I want to leave it out there that that's a possibility, that this person could have been radicalized, because definitely when you see how some of the leftists are responding to this and how they're cheering this sort of behavior,
Which I want to get into after the break.
Let's talk about sort of behavior on, which lets you know everything it is that you need to know about what that side is about and what their actual end game is for sure. Yeah, I can possibly leave it open that he was just radicalized and stupid. But then when you start to look at the connections, and still, this is a very bold thing to do. You're talking about one of the premium insurance companies, CEOs, and the man just offed them. And he's just a random guy that was pissed off at his insurance. I'm sorry, guys. I, as much as I want to believe that, sure, there's something else there, it just stinks.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to say this as well. Look, with the woke movement is a narcissistic movement where it's all about them at the end of the day. So he was caught with a manifesto, right? Mm-hmm. Well, straight away that tells you, he has something to say in his mind. He thinks he has something to say, right? Now, he shot the guy with a suppressed weapon with subsonic ammo, so I believe. So it wasn't like, he's not just walking up on the street with a gun and killing him. right? So it was definitely premeditated. Why he would know that much, it's kind of bizarre to me that he knew that much about weapons as well, to use that, especially when he just walked away as well. He said he just came up, shot the guy, and just walked away. So I think, again,
I was able to get as far as he did.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like he just walked off.
It's very weird, but I do think, again, like you said, it's kind of weird that he knew exactly where he was at the time, and there was nobody around.
All of it's weird.
All of it's peculiar. But I will say this: whether or not he's a useful idiot, I don't know. Like I said, the fact that he had back surgery. It is a thing, you know, he could be in chronic pain. There's nothing like spinal pain. I can tell you right now, it's very, very, very painful. So there are multiple different motivations.
But I can promise you that, I can promise you that the UnitedHealthcare CEO was not profiting off of his back surgery.
No, I don't.
It was the doctors in the hospitals.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to get at is, what is he going to do? Go and shoot all the doctors that worked on him? Is he going to go and, what is he going to do? And when you get down to narcissists, right, they want to make the biggest splash possible to make themselves more important, right? It's like, even when you look at the Unabomber, what the Unabomber said, and I believe that he was, there was some kind of, he quoted the Unabomber in something, so I read somewhere. So let's not dismiss the fact that all these special flowers want to be seen as special flowers, right? They want to be seen as different. Whereas with us, we want to create something beautiful. Like you want to do the Rippaverse. You want to grow your show. I want to make movies. We are creators. We want to create things. A lot of the narcissists want to destroy, right? They want to destroy, and that is the way they become notorious. So let's not discount the fact that he was probably woke, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants to make a name for himself. And I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but if you want to make a splash and you want to make a statement, however misguided it is, you go for the top guy.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we saw it with Trump, right? If you've got a problem with the government or with Republicans, who do you go for? You go for the head guy, the main guy.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the leftist reaction, which has been incredibly shocking. I have a pretty low bar for these people, and even I was like, oh, that's really bad. First, we want to thank our timely sponsor this segment, Relief Factor. So, instead of shooting someone, you should probably just try Relief Factor if you're in pain. It's an all-natural anti-inflammatory. And because I will say, to Matt's point earlier, if you're in constant pain, it does affect your life. Yeah. It affects every facet of your life. Probably you have less patience with your family. You just overall, it's like this cloud that hangs over your head with every single thing that you do because it's constant. So seriously, it's worked for me. It's worked for Matt. It's worked for so many people in this building. It's worked for Glenn Beck, Jakub Bujans, his mom. The list goes on, and we all have great testimonials about Relief Factor. So try it if you have not and you're in pain. It can be life-changing. Okay, go get their 3-week quick start. It's $19.95, and they're backed by 100% guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose except your pain. Go over to relieffactor.com to go get that quick start pack. It is relieffactor.com. So Taylor Lorenz, of all people, is in really hot water over her comments that appear to be in total support of the man who murdered the UHC CEO. So this all kind of started when Taylor Lorenz reposted an article on Blue Sky. And it was an article about another health insurance company that was trying to basically eliminate people's coverage. And she said, people wonder why we want these executives dead. Yeah, there it is. Blue Cross Blue Shield is no longer paying anesthesia for the full length of some surgeries. So she says, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. Now, a couple days later, because people read that, you read that and you're like, that's a really gross thing to say. Why would you ever type that out and hit send? Well, she tried to clarify her statements. She wrote this blog and instead of backing away from it, she just said, why, quote, we want insurance executives dead. No, that does not mean people should murder them. But if you watched a loved one suffer and die from insurance denial, it's normal to wish the people responsible would suffer from the same fate or suffer the same fate. So then you're like, no, that probably should not have been your tone. You're really not making this better, Taylor. You just nope. She tripled down in an interview with Piers Morgan yesterday, saying that she actually felt joy following this man's death. Watch.
Facts. I disagree. Let's move to the other story because Taylor's been waiting patiently here. So this issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country, I'm just curious why your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented when people
she's smiling and nodding,
giving you a lot of
so
blowback.
strange.
I'm not alone, you said. Healthcare executive down with party balloons was on an next post that you commented on. Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being?
Great question.
Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you know, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, you know, because it feels like.
Serious?
I mean,
joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Thousands of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And
you are not owed care.
Many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because
she's a psycho.
Because it wouldn't fix the
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
Okay, I do want to say it for the right, like just a detestable human being, just a total ghoul, Taylor Lorenz is. I do feel the need to remind everyone, going back to the conversation we just had, health insurance companies are not required to just pay whatever the hell you want them to pay for. Like that's not how it works in this country. Doctors are charging whatever the hell they want, and you're just like, oh, well, it's the health insurance companies who denied care. Like,
it's not how it
that's
works.
not how any of this works. This is, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, but if you want to blame someone, if you want to say we should get this for free from everyone, which I don't agree with you, then go complain to the freaking doctor and the hospital. Don't complain to the health insurance company who literally, you opt in. I realize Obama has forced everyone's hand, but you opt in to the coverage that you want. That's how this works. Like, I'm so sick of people acting like they're entitled for their health insurance company to cover everything as if the health insurance company is the one who's setting the prices, like, that isn't them. It's just so disingenuous of an argument to make.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talked about it last segment. There's a difference in if you're going to speak that aggressively about things, you need to understand the difference between health insurance and health care.
Yes.
Right? Now, she's referring to like talking about insurance. When saying that people are being denied care, look, I want to see the receipts on anybody being denied care, especially if
you can go get the care. Insurance may not cover it.
They may not pay for it, but that doesn't mean that they won't care for you, especially with something that's like
that's part of your contract,
or part of this something that you actually absolutely require. Look, this is in America now. That is not the case in a lot of cases.
Exactly.
When you have free health care, they absolutely will deny. Yeah, they absolutely will.
I can't wait to hear you talk about that.
They absolutely will deny you, but that's not how it works in America, and I'd make the argument that I prefer it to be that way.
That's why people come here.
Exactly. Right now, these are dangerous people, and I want people to understand that when I don't speak out of phrase when I say that these folks want you dead, okay? Because they do, right? If they feel you are the enemy, or rather, it isn't even just about you simply like being an ideological enemy. If they think that you stand in the way of anything that they are attempting to like implement, let's say their little idea of utopia, right? Especially with regards to the healthcare system, they want you up out of there. And then when something crazy happens to you where you are murdered, right? They will justify it. That's essentially what she's doing. She's justifying. Like, I couldn't help but feel joy. That's not a word that you just use if you're not feeling joy. And then she tried to backtrack only slightly, where she was like, well, I just don't feel empathy. Like, no, you're giddy. We see your face. You're giddy at the idea that this CEO was murdered because you feel like this person is in the way of a situation that you don't even seem to understand, Taylor Lorenz. And she's a real piece of work herself, right? She's not one of the best and the brightest and the most caring people, considering what she's done and what she's attempted to do. It's backfired on her a lot to folks that are on her side. But I think that's where this all comes into play, right? These people do not understand economics. They certainly don't understand how the health insurance or health companies, how any of that stuff operates in this country. But they draw these egregious conclusions, and they're willing to, maybe not they themselves, right, are willing to act it out. But if someone else does go over the edge and does act it out, you best believe they'll be cheering them on and saying, why aren't we doing more? I've seen some crazy posts about this saying that, acting as if, whoa, this should be normalized. They should just be out there offing CEOs.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It really is insane.
Well,
Matt, we got about a minute.
Okay, so firstly, the majority of these people that talk like this don't live in the real world, right? We speak about the Ivy Leaguers, right? Because they don't really understand what it's like to actually do a real job. The majority of them have been raised in privileged backgrounds, so they've actually never had to worry about healthcare. They've never had to worry about money or any of these other things. So they have this kind of like God complex about how they want to go and save other people. You see the way they talk about blacks, for example, especially white women, white liberal women, how they're going to help black people because black people don't quite know, don't understand how they can go and get IDs, right?
They need their white savior to help them.
They do, and then they don't even, the funny thing is they have no self-awareness. They're doing this, they're patronizing people, right? The other thing, which I find absolutely fascinating, is that the way that they use language, because we'll say, oh, I'll kill you. And they'll say, language is violence, language is violence. But then when they say, literally, we want to kill you, they try and back off it, which is, again, there's absolutely no logic to them or to their ideology. It's very important to note, Eric, you alluded to this earlier. We had an election that we nearly had lunatics like this actually running the place. So when they say they want you dead, take them by their word, right? And we have these ideologues, or we did in the last 4 years at the top level of government, and we're about to get them for another 4 years at the top level of government. So we dodged a bullet with Trump's,
quite literally.
Trump literally did, but we dodged a bullet as a country on so many different levels. We saw it in COVID. COVID should have been a wake-up call for everybody, that these people actually will tell you, you don't have the jab, so then you should not get health care because you're putting everyone else at risk.
Fantastic.
They want you dead. It's true. They do want you dead. When they say it, they mean it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Amen. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We will be back with more, but we want to thank our sponsor, Angel Studios. They're coming out with so many movies lately. So they've got a new one. It's called Homestead. And the idea is kind of a nuclear blast devastates Los Angeles. I'm glad you're not there
That'd
anymore.
be a shame, wouldn't it?
I'm glad you're not there anymore, Matt. There's a nuclear blast devastates Los Angeles, throwing the nation into chaos in this upcoming film, Homestead. It's coming to theaters December 20th. And ex-Green Beret joins a prepper compound, and love grows, truths arise, and a community unites. And more importantly, we support Angel Studios here at Blaze Media because you're not going to find any woke crap in any of their stuff. So pre-order your tickets for a chance to win a $300,000 giveaway. It includes 1 Bitcoin, a fully furnished tiny home from Box House, a custom Polaris OHV by Sparks Motors. I've piqued Eric
was like, huh?
Eric, you ready for this? Everything else you'd need to start your homestead. Pre-order your tickets for a chance to win, Eric. Angel.com/Sarah. That is angel.com/Sarah. So I want to talk about the Kristen Welker interview we talked about yesterday, but we didn't get a chance to talk about the comments on birthright citizenship that Donald Trump made while talking to Kristen Welker. Here's a little recap of that.
You promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
We're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need two, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Now, you'll notice in this conversation, these hacks keep referring to the 14th Amendment. But the 14th Amendment, well, guess what, dummies? The 14th Amendment was about slavery, not illegal immigrants. Okay, let's just recap the Fourth Amendment. All right, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. They were talking about recently freed slaves. That's how this came to be. Okay, so your 14th Amendment argument is bullshit. And I want to play, just for funsies, I want to play Ilhan Omar over on CNN talking to, I believe it was Caitlin Collins, and she was discussing Donald Trump's comments, and she wanted to set him straight on some things. Watch.
To end birthright citizenship. He talked about doing this in his first term. Obviously, he can't unilaterally do this, given it's changing the Constitution and it's the 14th Amendment. But as a naturalized citizen, I wonder how you view of Trump, what your view of Trump's effort to try to get rid of that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cornerstone to who we are as Americans. Mm-hmm. You know, I vividly remember when we got wind of the fact that we would get resettlement to the United States in that refugee camp in Mombasa, Kenya. My grandfather saying, you know, we're not going to accept resettlement in any other countries. Oh. We want to go to America because he said America is where eventually everyone becomes an American. And I think that is one of the reasons that we remain to be a beacon of hope. We think of ourselves as a nation of immigrants.
Not immediately.
Everyone, unless you are Native American or you came when a slave ship.
I'm sorry, Matt. I don't want to offend. Girl, you're not even from here. You don't get to be explaining what our rules mean and don't mean. You are not even from here. And did you pick up on the entitled nature of her saying, my grandfather said we wouldn't accept anywhere else? If you got it so bad and you're a refugee and you want to get the hell out of there, I don't know, I would probably go wherever I needed to go, but not Ilhan Omar. She wants you to know that she doesn't accept any place except America, because that's the place where everyone eventually becomes American. I don't know, sounds a little predatory to me.
I don't know what the hell she was going on about with that story.
She doesn't know either.
Like, she's talking about refugee resettlement, which I've talked about on this show for various, on the old show, right? Obviously, I spoke about, people need to look into refugee resettlement programs and just how much of your money is going to that. You might get pissed off. But what does that have to do with birthright citizenship at all?
She couldn't tell you. She couldn't tell you, but she's here to tell you how she understands more about what this country represents than you. Is that offensive to you?
No, it's not at all. I mean, you know it's not offensive to me. Look, one of the things that greatly annoys me are people that come to this country and try and tell Americans about their constitution like they don't know what they're talking about. Now, there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, but when you're talking about constitutionalists, which are mainly conservative Republicans, they know what they're talking about. That woman would be one of the reasons why I would run for Congress, just to balance it out, to come in and say, hey, listen, I'm actually one of those people that come in and appreciate the United States. Right. And by the way, I just want to make this other point. People keep going on now about Donald Trump and Donald Trump's kids because Melania, Melania was an elite. She was illegal. She was legal, and
so Donald
Ivana
Trump
was legal.
And Donald Trump is an American citizen.
And he's a citizen.
So that's not birthright citizenship. We have an entire tourism industry where people literally, they pay a good amount of money to come have their babies here so that their babies can be citizens. Yes, anchor babies.
By the way, can I just say, like, out of all my kids, 2 of them were not born in America. All the other ones were born in America. And I was legally here, and my wife was legally here.
Yeah.
And so I'm totally for this, by the way. And if they said, hey, listen, we're gonna reassess you and your children, I go, okay,
Do it.
go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference. It really drives me mad because what they're doing again is they're painting everyone with the same brush. And it's not true. That's why they conveniently leave out illegal and legal, right? They always leave that out. And here's the other thing. Right now, certainly in Europe, they're using asylum seeker as a backdoor way of getting people, illegals, into the country.
Yep.
And that's what's interesting when she said, but this is what's interesting when she says, I would only take the United States. Really? You won't go to Italy? It's beautiful in Italy. You won't. And this is happening over and over and over again because it's not about fleeing a war-torn area at all.
Yeah. No, exactly right. And to Eric's point, it's a system that's highly abused as well. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will see you guys tomorrow.